Firing coach Jim Montgomery is the Bruins' only logical move. That's the headline from Bruins beat reporter Fluto Shinzawa following an embarrassing 5-1 loss to the Blue Jackets on home ice last night. To speak to that, here's our insider Pierre LeBrun. Pierre, it's been ugly in Boston. On this day last year, they had the best record in the entire league. Now they're under 500 and 18th. What are you hearing out of Boston now?
Yeah, and you can obviously see why Fluto, who's one of the best beat writers in the NHL, by the way, would go that way after an embarrassing loss at home to Columbus. It's been a brutal start to the year for a team with higher expectations. But also the obvious angle in all this is that Jim Montgomery's contract is expiring at the end of the season. Everyone knows that. And so that makes it even more glaring when the team is in this situation. Not that there weren't talks, by the way, in the summer about an extension for Montgomery. There were, it just didn't get done, and now he's on an expiring deal. So where does it go from here? Certainly when I talked to other people around the league on Monday night after that loss, there were people wondering if this was it for Montgomery. Nothing from the Bruins so far on this day. They have a complete day off, no practice. They don't play again until Thursday night. But it's not just, you can't put everything here on Jim Montgomery, even if he does ultimately pay the price. I sat down with GM Don Sweeney 2 weeks ago for a piece I wrote in The Athletic, Gino, and there's a quote that still sticks with me from that interview. He said, quote, "If you look at our overall roster, you've got a lot of players that are off to a slow start. It's not just one player or two players. There's a lot of players," end quote. Man, did that stick with me. And you can read into that comment in a number of different ways. Was he shielding his coach at the time and laying the blame mostly on his players? Or was this about laying the blame all around, which is that the players need to be better, but the coach has to find a way to get more out of those players? And I'm the GM who put this roster together. I think that in a way, Sweeney was putting himself out there too. There's a lot of blame to go around here. And listen, it's not about one player, but Elias Lindholm has not found his bearings at all since signing that massive 7-year deal with the Bruins. He's not been very good at all. But again, he's not the only one. David Pastrnak has been hit and miss. He got benched at one game a few weeks ago. Jeremy Swayman missing camp has affected him clearly. He's not been at his best. On and on. So where does it go from here? One comment that I got from a rival team executive this morning I thought was absolutely true, which is through all this, and regardless of where the Bruins go from this moment, one thing has to be true, which is that they've been good forever. They've been good a long time, and this cap system does not allow you to cheat Father Time. Eventually, that lack of prospects and always going for it will catch up, as we've seen in Pittsburgh, but now the question is, has it happened with the Boston Bruins?
It just seems to be a natural ebb and flow in the cap era. All right, at the opposite end of the scale, though, the Carolina Hurricanes are flying. The top points percentage in the East, despite the fact the number one goalie's out. On Friday, Canes head coach Rod Brindamore said Freddie Anderson is going to be out way longer than we first thought. What are you hearing out of Carolina, Pierre?
Well, first of all, I would argue Kochetkov is probably their number one goalie by now, but I guess we can discuss that another day, Gino. I had a chance to chat with Eric Tulsky for a piece I wrote in The Athletic yesterday. And I mean, listen, could he have predicted for sure winning 13 of the team's first 17 games? No. He understands, in fact, why the outside world might have been somewhat skeptical, because they had massive offseason losses, right? They lost Pesce and Shea from their blue line. They lost Jake Gensel after trying to re-sign their trade deadline acquisition. He gets it. But he had a pretty solid under-the-radar response this offseason. All the new guys are fitting in. But most importantly, Gino, and this was the lead of my story, he did not trade Martin Necas. And listen, we know that Necas asked for a trade at the end of last season. He was unhappy with his role on the team. He was on the third line throughout the playoffs. And there were serious trade discussions, as Eric Tulsky confirmed again in our interview. I mean, he spoke to a number of teams. According to my sources, 28 teams had discussions with the Carolina Hurricanes about Martin Necas, and why not? He's 25 years old. So there were teams in a rebuild, teams that were contenders. Everyone was in on him. The Winnipeg Jets tried hard to get him. The Columbus Blue Jackets with ex-Carolina GM Don Waddell tried hard to get him. Montreal made a number of inquiries. You name it. But at the end of the day, Eric Tulsky said nothing that was on the table made sense for us to do. And they convinced him to re-sign a 2-year deal, which bridges Nietzsche's to UFA in 2 years. They'll deal with that later. But in the meantime, 30 points in 17 games, third in league scoring. Yeah. Yes, the Hurricanes are relieved and thrilled that the best trade they made is the one they didn't make in keeping Martin Nietzsche.
Yeah, just some of the stories Pierre and the guys are working on for the full version of Insider Trading that's coming up later on SportsCenter.